Boy, am I ready to go. Folks, TikTok is right because time's a wasting for the Patriots to take the first step to getting out of NFL mediocrity. This is Quick Slants. Kay will be along in just a second. What is that first step? It's getting a new guy to coach the offense. Will Bill Belichick be urgent? He was back in 2011, folks. You remember? Bill O'Brien was heading to Penn State. Bam! Bill Belichick moved before the playoffs had even ended to get Josh McDaniels back on his staff. Belichick in free agency after disappointing seasons in 02, 06, 15, and 20. Comes back out guns blazing in free agency the next year. Is he getting busy yet after this somewhat disappointing 2022? Well, as of this afternoon, there had been no contact between the Patriots and Bill O'Brien, who is the most plausible offensive coordinator candidate we can find. With the season still going, was that impossible for them to execute? It really shouldn't be. Alabama's season was already over. So why would they not do that? Was it because Bill didn't want to do the advanced work and make Matt Patricia and Joe Judge feel bad that he was trying to replace them? Was it because he's not sure that he wants to go ahead with this and move on? Doesn't want to make those guys fall guys? Or worse yet, does he have no plan at all to move on? Does he think it's too hard, that there's nobody out there, that we were just getting close at the end of the year? I don't think that's going to fly when he sits down with Robert Kraft, but we will be tracking that for the next coming weeks. Hopefully it's not that long. I hope it's not weeks. I want it done by the end of the week. A Mac attack? Money talks. Owning. We get into the ownership question as this week goes along. And of course, irrelevant questions will be bringing up the rear. Speaking
of bringing up the rear.
Speaking of Kay Adams, hey, buddy. It's so funny. The playoff train is moving down the track, and everybody here in New England isn't on it, so I'm a little bit sideways. It's weird.
No, it's fun. There's plenty to chew on. Listen, Bill Belichick might not have a plan, but you have a plan for today's show, and I'm excited to get to it because there's a lot of questions that need some answering.
There is a lot of meat on the bone. Should we get right into quickfire?
Yes, let's do it, everybody. We appreciate the tweets. Keep them coming. We know Patriots fans want to turn this thing around as fast as they can. So let's start with this. I'm going to show you, Tom, a couple of potential Patriots offensive coordinator candidates. See? Bill O'Brien, that's a hot little number there, but the Pats reportedly haven't reached out yet. Meanwhile, the Bucks and Titans rumored to have interessante. And Cliff Kingsbury, of course, canned by the Cardinals on Monday. According to Albert Breer, the Pats have done their research on it. That was Albert's quote. Your thoughts on these candidates?
You know, Kay, I think about this and I consider to myself, why would someone want to be here? Like, say, Cliff Kingsbury, what's the draw? You're going to come, you have a contract through 2027, the Arizona Cardinals have to continue to pay you. You're going to come east to New England to work with no title at all, for less money, have to gild the lily so that the Cardinals don't know that you're working as an offensive coordinator, work 90-hour weeks with an offense that went sideways so badly in a Machiavellian atmosphere in the front office where Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, and yourself, all fired head coaches, are somehow trying to find that golden ticket again. I don't know if it's that great an idea for Clifford. Kay?
Well, Clifford's kind of a rich man, and Ian Rappaport of NFL Media is making jokes about him potentially spending the next few seasons as a wealthy man in Ibiza or wherever. But I will say this, knowing what I know about Cliff, going back to Texas Tech, he's familiar with the Patriots. He knows what that means. He's wired like an obsessive NFL coach. He wants to work hard at something. And I think Bill Belichick may also want to be evolving with the new generation of players that he needs to be relatable with. So I think it's actually, funnily enough, a nice match. I think some compromises are going to have to be made on both sides, but Belichick should want someone like Cliff to be attractive to free agents, to be relatable to players that might be younger and, that Bill Belichick might have a tougher time relating to.
On
the other side, Bill Belichick can be the steward of getting him back to greatness as he failed and only had one playoff appearance with so much talent out there in the desert.
Let's stay on this because Bill actually likes that. That's part of the reason that Joe Judge and Matt Patricia in particular came back here was to rehabilitate them, give them a soft, safe landing where they can be working instead of at home licking their wounds. I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury will be licking his wounds so much because I think everyone could see why it went sideways and he did get that team to the playoffs. But you do raise an interesting point about the novel outlook that a player, former player, / coach like Cliff Kingsbury would bring, because he has been away from Foxboro for so long. And I do think that Bill is cloistered, and they do want him to open up his mind to different ways of doing things. So
I agree with you. We'll see. It might be a perfect fit. It all depends on what's important to Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think, at his age, did he really want to be an NFL coach, invest all that time, spend those years of his life? That's just who he is. He loves the game in that way, and anybody will tell you that. All right, next, let's get to this here. There's you. I didn't hear this yet. You and Bill Belichick, a little back and forth action. Let's hear.
Yeah.
To establish then that what's best for the team. So many of us on the outside, deferring obviously to your expertise, resume, experience, and everything, said, well, obviously he knows better than we do, but it did seem a dubious choice. In hindsight, did we have a point?
Yeah, I would, again, at that point in time, at every point in time, I've always made what I felt like were the best decisions for the team. But I'll put the team first and do what I feel is best for the team. And whether you agree or disagree with that, that's up to you. I respect that, but I'm always going to do what I feel is best.
Well, we have such a hard time is understanding why something is best when it is not a straight line obviousness, and we don't get a lot of clarity from you why something that seems dubious is best, so we end up casting a vote. That's a statement, not a question. I understand we're on limited time here.
What?
He's terrifying.
Well, I walked right up to the Dragon and said, "Will you never tell us anything?" I mean, that's the essence of it. He doesn't necessarily owe us an answer. He doesn't have to open a vein and self-flagellate. But if you make a decision, Kay, to hire a couple of guys that we all on the outside say, gee, I might not know much, but I don't think that's a good idea, and he says, trust me, and it doesn't work, and you're like, well, you're smarter than me. Why did that seem like a good idea to you? And he goes, best for the football team. Well, how? Why? You get me?
Yeah, he's saying, I'm not going to tell you why. I can't tell you why. And it's why it's fair to question. It sounds crazy. Like, does he have a plan? Does he have a plan? What is Bill Belichick working on, and what is he doing to improve this team? And it's going to affect his legacy. I think it really will. Okay, now we have to this Kraft. I mean, who has a weirder decision to make than Robert Kraft here? He sent his messages, I'm sure he always does, to season ticket holders, and he said, this is the letter, reading in part, no one in our organization is satisfied with the results from this past season. In the weeks ahead, we'll be making critical evaluations of all elements of our football operations as we strive to improve and return to the playoffs next year. I mean, customer satisfaction, it's important, Tommy.
And it's very clear that is an unsatisfied owner, and he wants that customer satisfaction to emerge. And in order for that to happen, changes have to be made. So when Bill Belichick sits down, if he hasn't already done that this week with Robert Kraft, he needs a cogent plan to present to him that says, this is what we're going to do to make the offense better. And if that plan is, we're going to sit tight, we think we were making progress, I think that might create a little bit of shiftiness among the owners and his son as they say, we gave you a lot of rope last year and gave you the latitude to make those decisions. I think the rope could be gone to an extent, Kay.
And said bye to Brady. There's a lot of ins and outs here and a lot of years, of course, compounded with lots of dramatic storylines. Let's get to this. Here's Bill Belichick again. This is yesterday talking about spending. He had some interesting comments and talked about the expensive free agent class of 2021.
Our spending in 2020, our spending in 2021, and our spending in 2022, the aggregate of that was we were 27th in the league in cash spending. So a couple of years were low, 1 year was high, but over a 3-year period, we're one of the lowest spending teams in the league.
Okay, some people thought that was a shot that Bill Belichick was taking at the Crafts being a bit stingy. My take on it, and Jim McBride from the Globe echoed that, no, absolutely not a shot. What he's trying to say, Kay, is that he is economically a pretty smart guy. And even though he went off in 2021, over the last 3 years, he hasn't spent like a drunken sailor. I guess that ignores the fact that he couldn't really spend in 2020 because they had $26 million in dead cap money, and some of the guys like Jonnu Smith haven't worked out. But Kay, I look at this, and he doth protest us too much, doesn't he?
I mean, it's wild, but I'm sure all these questions, this is a nice prep you guys gave him, helpful for Bill Belichick, who's going to have to go sit with Robert Kraft. We all heard Greg Bedard, on Boston Sports Tonight talking about there being a chance Bill isn't back. They're going to have this tough conversation. So let's get to the poll question, though. So much to talk about on this Quick Slants.
Absolutely. The poll results presented by Shaw's Perfecting the Art of Fresh. I put this up today. If the Patriots stay put or make just minor changes to the coaching staff on offense, what will your reaction be? Bill, I still trust. 8% of you? I guess that's okay. 2%. Come on. Seriously? Nothing? 34%. And 55% of you said, I'll be flipping steamed. Okay, we got any comments?
That 8% is hostile. Oh, my gosh. Well, how about this? Kevin says, if Bill Belichick decides to keep Patricia and Joe Judge in the same roles, he is not doing what is best for the team. Jacoby Myers, after week 1, wasn't even sure what they were doing on offense.
Damning intel.
TGM says, yeah, as a season ticket holder, I'll be pretty irate. Have you seen the schedule next year? 5-win team if no significant changes. Brian says if Belichick doesn't guarantee an OC and have one by the week of conference championships, he should be immediately relieved of his duties, arrested, and charged with treason. Oh, wow. That's fire right there.
It is, but I think that people are losing their patience, and I guess everything's on the table, up to and including arrest and treason charges for Bill Belichick, which is it's the worm has turned, certainly. Okay,
it really has.
Time now for Ask Kay, and I think the most important thing that we need to get to with Kay is just how's it going in your new house? Are we up? Am I up? Are we up? I'm up. What?
Having a home is so stupid. Like, it is one thing. First, I have wasps. I've got bees' nests. I've got flooding. A gas leak.
Big rain.
A gas. Like, what? What is the what?
Hey,
not interested.
This is very simple. When you buy a home, it's so you have a place to go with your kids to play wiffle ball, right?
Yeah.
And all the kids can come up on Halloween and trick or treat, and you can do all the things with your kid. You don't have any kids.
I don't have any kids. Are you indicting me for not having children? Or are you making
I don't understand why you buy a house if you don't have kids. Stay in a place with a doorman. I don't want.
Have you never heard of my life motto of making everything more difficult than it needs to be, Tom? Are you pretending you don't know me? Love ya. Talk to you soon.
Don't go anywhere. We still have to find out what she thinks about the playoff picture. Just give me a pick for the weekend.
Oh, a pick for the weekend for which team?
Any of them. You were trying to get out of here because you're mad about the commentary on the house.
Game. Listen, I don't know if there's a hotter team in football than the Jacksonville Jaguars. They look so good in defense. You got Christian Kirk, you got Trevor Lawrence. But even though Brandon Staley made a pretty knucklehead decision of starting his starters out there, if Mike Williams is 100% ready to go, Slater looks like he's back on the offensive line. I think the Chargers get a win, and I'm excited to see that happen as they are underdogs on the road.
Yeah, and you're just a huge Chargers girl, too. I know that.
I am.
I've seen videos.
Bye.
Okay. You're the best. I'll see you soon. Coming up after the break, Mac Jones, Bill Belichick. Is it still the honeymoon period? I don't think so. Stay tuned. Growth potential. How did Mac look down the stretch? Yeah, the team went 2-5, but Mac, stats-wise, much better. Took care of the football better. Actually got a little bit better protection. And even though he had 3 picks in the final game, they weren't really his fault. 1-800-GET-HAIR. Mac showed growth. You can too. On the top of your damn head. Now it's time for my slant. Watch out! And ladies and gentlemen, I'm old enough to remember when Mac Jones was looked at as an asset. Yeah, this was July.
I think Mac's done a great job. He's worked extremely hard. He's got a tremendous work ethic, and in all areas, I think there's a dramatic improvement.
5 months later, just a guy.
Well, I think there's, Mac has the ability to to play quarterback in this league. And, we have to all work together to try to, find the best and most, best way to, as a football team, which obviously the quarterback's an important position, to be more productive than we were this year.
Wow, that's a low bar, isn't it? Why in God's name would Bill go in July from talking about this guy being the centerpiece of what he's going to take to the end of his career in so many ways, and now talking about, well, he might be better than Bailey Zappi? I mean, you're talking about him like he's Brian Hoyer. All due respect to Brian Hoyer, who started in the league longer than Mac did, but why would Bill be seemingly out, at least verbally, on Mac Jones when he loved him that much? Well, I think a large part of it has to do with the fact that Mac Jones and his buy-in as the season progressed wasn't what he was looking for. How resilient was Mac when things went sideways? Now, people out there might be saying, Mac got served a poop sandwich with no bread and he should have just eaten it. And I think that's what Bill Belichick thought for a long time. And when he finally said, this doesn't taste very good during the Buffalo game, and said, why aren't we fighting to the end? And then the next week started getting dismissive toward the sideline. Well, that's when Bill said, you're starting to make me look bad, kid. I'm 70 years old. I've won 6 Super Bowls, been to 9. What are we doing? So to me, this is an announcement by Bill Belichick that he's looking at Mac and going, yeah, July was one thing, but now that I saw how you performed, I'm not going to sit here and have the same tone at the end of this season. And how's that go over with Mac Jones, who just went through that and devoured that poop sandwich? I don't know if that goes over so big. All right, so I put up another poll for you kids because I thought we should, because one of my loyal followers on Twitter demanded it. He said, how about a Mac Jones poll? So I said, is Bill Belichick cooling on Mac Jones? And are you okay with that? No. Bill Belichick set Mac up to fail. 51% of you thought that. I don't mind. I'm also wavering, 31%. And then 18%, including the guy who demanded my putting this poll up, said Mac is not the guy. First one's from our guy Napoleon Bonaparte. Tough one. I don't feel like Mac is that good regardless, but if you're being remotely fair to him, you'd have to be one of the best in the league to make that scuba tank full of farts around him succeed. Thank you, Napoleon. Next up, Joe McDonald, much more conventional name. Mac Jones is the worst chef on Hell's Kitchen. Yeah, he's on the show, but he ain't winning at all. Good point, Joe. Patriots football. So BB's finally back to treating his quarterback like he used to and not pandering to them like special babies. And it's funny he says that too, because remember Cam Newton in 2020 could do no wrong. Couldn't throw it overhand. The team only had 32 touchdowns offensively all season long, but Cam never was heard a discouraging word, and he got lopped off not too soon after that. All right, coming up, Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast Thursday at 6 o'clock. I'll have the latest news on the Patriots with Phil Perry and Matt Castle. They'll join me. It's presented by Shaw's, perfecting the art of fresh. Coming up after the break, we have irrelevant questions with our guy, Brenden Schooler. Last one of the year. Hey, you kids. Coming up at 6:30, I want you to tune in for our Bella Early Edition with Trenny. Yeah, Trenny Casey. She'll be taking a deep dive into the biggest sports stories of the day. You might find a friend of yours there, too. Me. Brenden Schooler and the Irrelevant Questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here with special teamer extraordinaire, Brenden Schooler. Brenden, I think the first and most obvious question is, how long have you been growing the hair?
I think since 2015 was when I started growing it out. We were in a playoff game, and we were playing this team, and this guy had hair coming out of his helmet. I was like, that looks really cool. I'm going to do that.
Here's some slice of life questions. Do you drink coffee?
Hey, I'll drink a cup or two a day.
What are you going to have in it?
A little cream, low sugar, nothing much.
When you drive, are you a left-hand lane, middle lane, right-hand lane guy?
I mean, if I'm in a hurry, I'm in the left lane, and if not, then I'm normally in the middle, but I'm normally in a hurry, so left.
Yeah, I'm a left-hand lane guy myself. When the plane lands and the ding dings and you're in an aisle seat, do you stand up?
No, sit down. If you're in an aisle seat, maybe, but if not, sit down. Everyone's going to get off at the same time.
It's a society. It's a civilized society. If we can't have rules, if we can't adhere to those, what are we even doing?
It's going to be Lord of the Flies at some point, so we need to have people sit down.
Oh, that's good. You just brought me to my next question. Favorite high school English book that you had to read?
Oh, Great Gatsby. Just because we got to watch the movie after.
That is it. That was a good book. Well, how about Lord of the Flies? Did you feel bad for Piggy? Were you surprised at all those English guys degenerating into that kind of behavior?
I mean, it's survival of the fittest out there, and if Piggy wasn't going to cut it, he wasn't going to cut it.
Tough break, Piggy. I like to do this every week. It's called, Hey, what's your number? And we go into the number that you've been given and whether that's the number that you prefer to have and what your favorite number would be. 41, of course, was Tom Seaver. Tom Seaver. Do you know who Tom Seaver was? He's one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history. But he's a little before your time. But 41, is that good for you?
Oh, I love it.
If you could have picked anyone, though.
I could have picked. My high school number was 22, but I know Cody has that, and I respect Cody a whole lot, so we'll let him have it until he's done, and then hopefully once he's done, I can grab 22.
Okay, Cody, you're not going anywhere. What famous New England quarterback made the number 22 famous around these parts? He actually played for this team and dressed right over there, but he was a New England, Massachusetts bred quarterback.
Oh, I don't know about that one. I was a West Coast guy. I didn't really.
All right, he can give you a clue. He was a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, still not ringing a bell. I'm sorry to visit.
Played at Boston College.
Still not ringing.
He's just a tiny little guy.
I wish I could. Was it you?
No, it was Dub Saluti. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you so much.
You guys are going to miss irrelevant questions, aren't you? I am too. Maybe we'll do irrelevant questions with Trenny or Tom Giles or Phil Perry or Garcia or even Buckets, who has done a great job. We'll be back next week. We're not done yet, Mother Scratcher.